Nostalgia, the thing we all naturally grip onto as it reminds us of simpler times, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's better. Film studios have realised the linkage between people desperate to feel how they did when they were younger and money, and in turn start using old characters and story concepts to get easy money, ignoring the fact that they can make new stories that could be the next generation's nostalgia, and instead getting the same concept revamped to look shiny. I'm mainly talking about Disney when I say our film studios are focusing more on easy money than good stories which they built their studio on originally. Whether it's their own properties or ones they have bought and subsequently rinsed until there is no more love for a franchise. My first example of this would be in Marvel. Previously, they had focused on story and how things link up where the world of superheroes is still grounded, creating proper stakes. But in more recent times, when it comes to Marvel, they just use time travel whenever possible to bring back once loved characters purely to play with the audience emotions, force them to buy a ticket so they can see a character who defined their childhood one more time. And on paper this sounds fine, but the way Marvel have gone about it has ruined any real stakes and emotional investment you put into the films and characters. For example, Logan was a cultural phenomenon that marked the end of Hugh Jackman's 17-year run playing the iconic Wolverine, in a bittersweet, sad yet epic finale for the character. Don't get me wrong, seeing Deadpool and Wolverine was fun, but it felt like it ruined Logan, which is the better film, because it meant his death at the end seemingly counted for nothing because Deadpool could just time travel his way or go to the multiverse and resurrect this once beloved character. In fact, this whole film felt like just a way to build hype and felt like one big trailer. But with it earning 1.3 billion worldwide, who cares, right? Well, you may be thinking about the Disney remakes that they haven't been well received. Correct, they haven't, but they will still make profit in the box office due to the connection adults have with these stories and then wanting their children to feel the same way. Your nostalgia becomes the perfect excuse to take your child to the cinema. Alternatively, people like to see the stories they grew up on adapted to see how it is. In almost every case, they disappoint because you can't just remake the original because it doesn't have the same charm, and that's because of people's nostalgia as well. So it can work both ways. Nostalgia can blind a person to see something in their memory as a lot better just because they associate with better time in their life. But whichever effect it has, Disney will milk any property they have the rights to until it's dry. What got me thinking about this topic was that I saw where the top 10 biggest box office this year of 2024 were all sequels, and in most cases not needed ones, where it is again using people's love for a story to earn more money despite lots of the time it disrespecting the original source with rushed and less thought out writing, due to the fact these corporations have figured out that people will go and see some things related to their favourite story no matter how much it may ruin the original material. And more pointless and unneeded sequels keep getting released, like Gladiator 2, which people like but all say how there is no need for it, especially when it could never compare to the original. The biggest counter argument I receive when I talk about this topic is that if people enjoy it and it drives people into cinemas, how is it killing it? Well, my response to this is that it works for a bit, but without new stories, what will future generations feel nostalgic about? What will be the film of your kids' generation? If all that comes out is Avengers 14 and Fast and Furious 22, and more importantly, cinemas has always been a reflection of real life, and without that emotional connection to the art, things in life will feel emptier. But you may be thinking, if they are earning money and people want to see them, then what's the issue? Think about the feeling when you watch something new and feel a sense of separation anxiety when you finish. That feeling will quickly go extinct if the same stories get repeated, as well as the fact films help people reflect on parts of their lives without the cultural learning and a developing society will help. Christopher Michael McCormack discusses this when he says, substantial evidence now suggests that narrative is an effective means of changing beliefs, attitudes and behaviours. This effect is demonstrated in diverse disciplines and understood within the theoretical frameworks of a narrative persuasion. We need stories from people, not executives, because that's where the beauty of cinema lies. However, nostalgia isn't always the worst thing in film, or in a lot of cases, it is used in a creative sense. In my opinion, there are two types of nostalgia in film. One being what I have previously mentioned, where studios use familiar and popular ideas and then capitalise on that by recreating it in the hopes of it still being something people remember fondly and want to see more. The other type of nostalgia I haven't spoken about yet is where they use periods of time like the 80s and give people fond memories of that period using music and the overall look of the world. For example, Stranger Things, though being a TV show, is a great example of this type of nostalgia, as it is giving the perspective of kids in the 80s, which will resonate with a lot of audiences who also grew up in these times. Another great example of this type of nostalgia is Mid-90s by Jonah Hill, a film about kids who skate and the relationship their friend group has. You'll notice how both these examples feature kids. This is because that's the best way of giving nostalgia, as you go through the film through the eyes of kids and teens, when most people's nostalgia is based. It allows people to look more fondly on these times without having the lesser stresses of adulthood when you were a carefree kid.